Inravio.com.
And welcome back to the weekly show.
Welcome back. I want to get right into it. We have with us via Skype, I would love to have her here, but she lives too far away. Via Skype, we have a professor of sociology at Madison College, which she's super, super smart, which scares me. But anyway, Andrea Thalasinos, who's author of these two books here, An Echo Through the Snow, which was the very first one, and then there's another one which I'll have to ask her the title of because I've already forgotten, and then Fly By Night, which I just finished reading, and I love them all. So, welcome to the show, Andrea.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So, tell us a little bit about how you got into writing.
I've always written stuff from the time I was like a teenager and used to write songs and poems that I'd put to music. And it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I started to write novels. I was finishing graduate school, and I would just get an idea for a story and just want to start writing. So I took a couple of classes and, wrote a couple of novels that are no longer in existence. They were just experimental. And then I sort of like fell in love with dogs and animals and started to write stories that had those animals, the intersection of humans and animals and the relationship between those, and all sorts of struggles and personal struggles in people's lives, and how animals oftentimes have the ability to help us through things and form relationships with us in some cases that people can't. So so that's kind of like how I sort of got into it. I just started writing because I love to write, and then this whole idea for writing the first one, Echo Through the Snow, which I see you have up there, came about when I got a bunch of sled dogs, huskies, and I started to dog sled with my kids, and really learned about this whole sort of subculture and world, and sort of got into researching the peoples of the Arctic and how they use these dogs, and it was fascinating to me. I learned so much, and it was amazing. So what a great experience.
Oh, that book was amazing to me. I learned so much about the history of them and where they came from, and I don't know how much of it's true. I'm assuming that you researched it all and it's all facts, but it's gospel to me. That is the gospel of dogs. It's just beautiful.
Yes.
So you said you've been writing all this time. You come up with these ideas for stories. Do you come up with the idea and build it as it goes along, or do you like come up with the end and make a story that comes along, or how do you do it? What is your process?
Well, I always come up with an idea. Sometimes it's an impression, it's a feeling, it's a character, it's a situation, and I build the entire story around that individual or a situation that somehow really grabs me, and I want to learn more about it, and suddenly, all of these characters show up as I'm writing. It's really kind of an interesting process, and I usually don't know how it's going to end, and I just kind of write intuitively, wherever the story sort of leads me, and that was the case with Fly By Night. I started to write that about this marine biologist, and then in Wisconsin they reinstituted a wolf hunt, and I had to learn more about that and find out about what that was, and the more I found out about it, the more angry I was, because it was sort of like nullifying the whole Endangered Species Act, in the United States, which is, it's kind of our wilderness. It's all of, the stuff that makes America beautiful and wild. And, here is this consistent effort on the part of state legislators to just, go after wolves and bears and all of these protected species, eagles, and just basically have open season literally on these animals. And so I read a lot about that. I did a lot of research in Wisconsin about that, and a lot of the book sort of like, centers on a couple of things, as well as family relationships. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So.
Well, I noticed that the Amelia's parents, both, are Greek, and I know from your last name, obviously, you're Greek. Did you make her family
Yes.
Greek because of that? I mean, because you could have been anything.
Did I what? Sorry, I didn't hear you. The
Did you
question.
make her
Did
family
I?
Greek because you're Greek, or did it
Oh
come?
yeah,
Of
yeah.
course, okay.
Yeah.
And
No, it was definitely the Greek thing. And the second book, Traveling Light, which is my second book, really goes into the whole Greek American experience. And again, there's animals, there's dogs and wolf dogs and eagles, and also the relationship between a Greek woman and her mother,
wow,
her aging mother, and this sense of being the other. You're an American, but you have this whole other culture, that you have struggled with. What are you? And so it was really very much about identity, and many things themes went through that book. And when I was writing the third one, I just thought, she's going to be Greek. What the hell? What else could she be? So, what can you do? It's the default.
I've noticed, now, again, I didn't read the second one, but I noticed a change in your writing style from the first to the third.
Oh,
There's a lot more, I'm going to call it symbolism. I don't know if that's really what it is, but I noticed like
okay.
little phrases that you put in that were like, there was, when Amelia was going to the interview at the mall, you put in groups of
Right.
teenagers sped past like schools of blue jackfish syncopated with knife-like precision.
Right.
I was like, wow, that is cool. I saw it. I knew exactly what you were
Oh,
talking about. I,
Yep.
that was very cool. And I don't remember you doing that in the first book. Did you take more classes, or how did you come up with these visual things?
These images. I don't know. I'd like to think I'm just you do it enough and you get better.
Okay.
It's just the practice effect. And the first, when I wrote Echo Through the Snow, it was sort of like, every day you write, you're outside of your comfort zone, and it can be quite terrifying to, try and, what's inside of you and how you see it and how you think about it to actually get it on paper. And I think with each successive try, I hope it sounds like maybe, it's, I'm just becoming a better writer, and I'm able to think more clearly and then also put it on paper, so, that's good to know. You liked it. Yay.
Oh, absolutely. No, I could see in the beginning of this one, you wrote Amelia as not an unlikable person, but she was a little bit standoffish and kind of on the cold side. But then as the story progressed, I began to like her, and she was a totally different person, and I could see you doing it. It was so cool to see that development, and it's something I would love to be able to do, but I can't. But I loved it.
Right. Well, I'm glad you got that, because that was something that I wanted to happen with her. Like, I wanted her to come from this very guarded place. She's a research scientist. She's run this lab, this facility. Her and Jen and Bryce, and she's published and widely known. And this has been like her whole world. And then her whole world sort of falls apart, and she falls apart a bit, and just leaves, Rhode Island in her lab and moves to Minneapolis to work in a shopping mall, and which I did actually go there and go to see life. It's a wonderful place, but just to kind of see her get rattled and then grow as a person and open up to some of the people and experiences. So I'm glad that came across,
Oh,
'cause
definitely. It
I really
definitely did.
wanted that for her, and I'm glad that it came off that way. You never know, I'm glad
Oh,
that
yeah.
you got that from it. So
Oh, I definitely saw it, and I really, really like the characters of Gloria and White Deer. I would love to see another book about them and their life, and
about who? About
Gloria and White Deer.
Gloria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Well, 'cause several
unrequited
people have
love.
asked me that, and I think, yeah, I think that may happen. So
Excellent. I definitely finished that story going, but what happened? I want to know about Gloria. So that's cool.
oh, cool. That's good to know. Several people have said that to me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Now, stepping back a little bit, what got you to start to want to write? What was the inspiration? It was like, you know what, I got to write a book.
I just started doing it. I guess I've always read a lot, and have always been inspired. I mean, I took a creative writing class in high school, and it was something that I absolutely loved, and I seemed to be able to do it. And a lot of things I couldn't do, but that's one thing that I could do. And then I kind of got, was a young mother and raising kids, and didn't have time to do anything at that point. And as my kids kind of got older, I had more free time, and that's when I really that feeling you have to write, you have to put something on paper, and it got really strong. And then just finally, like I said, I made several attempts and was struggling. And I don't have a formal, creative writing degree. I don't have an MFA. I'm a sociologist by training. I'm a social scientist,
Right.
And I think maybe I bring that to the table. And the stories that I do write, I bring a lot of sociology and understanding of people in society and the relationships between them and the social changes that they go through. So I probably bring that more to the table than technique. And technique is something that, as the more that I write, and maybe this third book, sort of like evolving as a writer, hopefully that I'm developing in that way. But yeah, it's like I write just about every day. And I just started a new novel this past summer, and that's why I'm in Nova Scotia. For the summer, I'm doing research and I'm writing here, and so it's like a whole new thing, and which is
Yeah.
really exciting. So it's kind of something that just like makes you have to do it. There's that creative force, so it's a drive. Yeah.
It's a passion. That's good.
Oh, it's really cool. I assume there's gonna be wolves in this next one, somewhere along the line, just because you...
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I didn't
Yeah.
expect the
Oh, yeah.
seahorses in this one, so are we gonna get a different animal to go along with the wolves, or do we have to wait and see?
Well, they're going to be horses. So
Cool.
not seahorses, but real horses. And I've been doing some research about, I don't know if you ever heard of like equine assisted therapy. So it's with people for children who've been through trauma and also returning veterans. And so one of the characters will be doing this type of work with young kids and also with returning vets with post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so I've been learning a lot about horse behavior and horses and the interaction of horses and people and how horses can read people and why they end up being such incredible therapy animals. I mean, they've been used for quite a long time, with people who have physical disabilities, but it hasn't been that long that they've been, used with people who have undergone some type of psychological trauma. And it's amazing work that I've seen done. And so, one of my characters now is going to be doing this type of work. So there'll be horses, there'll be wolves, there'll be dogs, and of course a lot of people and complex relationships. So yeah, so that's kind of like, and who knows what else will show up. You never know.
Well, it sounds great. I'm already psyched to read it. Very cool.
Cool.
So
Good.
if you were going to interview you, I know that you get interviewed by people and you get asked the same questions over and over again, but if you were going to interview you, what would be the question you'd ask?
Oh, wow. Huh. I don't know. I guess I might ask myself the question that you asked, wanting to know more about Gloria and some of the other characters. People have wanted me to write a sequel for Echo Through the Snow, and they've been really curious about like what happens to Rosalie, what happens to, all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I have thought of doing that. And, if I wasn't sort of starting, this book, it's called Horseplay at this point, I would be, maybe thinking about revisiting some of these other stories. And so I think that might be something that I might do. So, yeah. So other than that, I don't know what question I would ask myself.
Well, sometimes you come out of interviews and stuff, you're like, boy, I wish they would have asked me this, or I would have loved to have talked about that, or something. That's why I asked, if there was something that you usually come out wondering, why didn't they ask me about something?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of anything offhand.
Okay. So you've got
Yeah.
some new book signings coming up and travel and stuff, right?
Yes. Yes. I have several things in Canada this summer that are lined up, and then in the fall I'll be back in Wisconsin to teach, and I have something in Minnesota, a couple of things in Wisconsin. We're showing a documentary called The Medicine of the Wolf in Madison as a fundraiser, and we're going to be having Julia Huffman, Jim Brandenburg, photographer, Julia Huffman, director, to show up in Madison, and I'll be co-hosting, that showing in October, which is going to be sort of endangered species. It's actually a Wolf Awareness Week in Wisconsin, the Timber Wolf Alliance. So I'll be involved in that, plus some activities up in northern Wisconsin about wolf awareness, and just trying to get the public to understand that, wolves are not going to bite them. They're not going to kill their children. They're not, they're just, they're afraid of us, and they live in the woods, and, that sort of thing. So I'll be quite involved in that this fall. So, and so got a lot coming up.
Yeah,
So,
sounds like it.
Sounds like you're going to be busy.
Yes.
That
yes,
is great.
Yes. So, yeah. Yeah.
So the only other thing I really have to say, I could talk about this book for hours, but the only other thing is I really liked how in our current social climate, the way things are, people are always, bashing other people, or somebody's trying to kill somebody all the time. In your book, there were actually people who had different beliefs and spiritual and religious and that kind of thing, and yet they respected each other. They were able to talk about it, say, no, I don't really agree with that, but I respect what you do. And I thought that was really cool that you did that, and it was very obvious. It came out. I saw it, So I like that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I work towards that, and, being a teacher who teaches sociology, I have people in my classes that have many different beliefs, and, there's oftentimes this tendency, if I'm right, then, you're totally wrong. And not only are you wrong, you're an idiot. And that's something that in my classes, I really try, if they learn nothing else, they learn that honorable people can disagree. And just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they're wrong. Everybody comes to the table with different life experience, different things have happened to you. And just because what you've experienced is valid doesn't mean that somebody else, has not experienced something equally as valid, but for themselves. And that's something that I also try to bring through in my work, in my writing. Traveling Light, my second book, I also try and bring that in. It's about a woman who's married to a man who is an extreme hoarder. And, and so that brings sort of raises the issue of mental illness in perspective, and which I believe also is something, that in our culture we need to kind of look at. And also in that novel, there are eagles, there are wolf dogs, there are wolves, I always write about nature and animals. And it also brings the issue of having differing perspectives. What is normal? What is to live a normal life? Mm-hmm. And so, this is something that I also try and introduce some of these themes, in the books. So, well, I'm glad you got that. So that makes me happy. Yeah.
Yes, I really, really enjoyed it. I am so glad to be able to talk to you about it because, like I said, I really enjoyed your books, and I'm definitely going to be getting the middle one.
Thank you.
So do you have anything else?
Yeah.
For
Well, I hope you like Traveling Light. Let me know what you think.
I definitely will.
A Facebook thing and let me know.
Okay, I will.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. We thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on with us today.
And if you're ever in New York, you'll have to come and do an interview right here in the studio.
Absolutely.
I will be in New York, and I possibly will be in New York this fall. So
excellent.
I will definitely let you guys know, and I would be honored. It would be so fun. Thank you for having me tonight. I so appreciate it. It's great.
Thank you.
Inravio.com.